Rob Miller, Huntington County Commissioner. Welcome to our second in our series of podcasts for the Huntington County community. Today's topic is public safety. As we all know, public safety is one of the basic tenets of government. I want to introduce a couple of guests I have here today. We have Huntington County Sheriff Chris Newton. Welcome, Chris, and his Chief Deputy, Chad Hammel. I'm going to just give you a quick bio on these two gentlemen. Correct me if I'm wrong, fellas, if I don't get it right. Sheriff Chris Newton, a lifelong Huntington County resident with 25 years of experience in law enforcement, former paramedic, FBI National Academy graduate, and founder of Camp Hero. Chief Deputy Chad Hammel has over 2 decades of hands-on experience in law enforcement with a strong focus on investigations, training, and community safety initiatives. Welcome, gentlemen. Well, I will say my experience with Chris and Chad over the last 7 or 8 years is both of you gentlemen have raised the bar for community engagement and training standards and best practices for law enforcement. First question for Chris here. So what inspired you to, from being a paramedic, to move into law enforcement, Chris?
Yeah, well, first I want to thank you, and I want to thank the commissioners to having us here today. I think this is a really neat program to kind of advertise what we're doing in the community. I think people see stuff on Facebook and sometimes in the paper about things that are going on. So the fact that you're doing this and getting this information out to the public, I just want to thank you on behalf of our office, and thanks for having us. To answer your question, I think I grew up in a time, Rob, it sort of dates me, I feel, as I'm sitting here talking about it, but I grew up in a time where we didn't have social media. We didn't have Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all the things, the internet. We didn't have any of this stuff. I mean, days when I was growing up, we were either outside riding our bicycles, playing basketball, playing football, playing Nintendo, playing Atari, things of that nature. And so in the evenings, nobody had a phone in their face. It was just a one-on-one time with family. And the TV shows that you used to watch back then were either comedy related or they were drama. And a lot of the dramas were police related, like your Hill Street Blues, things of that nature. The people of this genre will remember what I'm talking about. That's what we watched in the evening as a family. And so I think early on for me, it was watching these shows and not really thinking about it. But when you get through high school, like, now what am I going to do? I'm getting to be an adult. I have to start paying for stuff. And so the easiest thing is to relate back to the things that you were most comfortable with and what you related with. And for me, I like to be hands-on, like to be active, and like doing things. That law enforcement was something that really drew me. And yeah, of course, you have to be 21 to carry a handgun. So out of high school, you're 18, you don't know what to do. I took the next best step. I got into a vehicle that still had lights, it still had sirens. And I found that I really enjoyed going on calls and taking care of people enough that I went to the EMT classes and eventually the advanced EMT classes. And ultimately, I went to Huntington and I was part of their first paramedic class. And I really enjoyed that. But finally, the time came and I had to make it a decision. Either I was going to stay as a paramedic or get into law enforcement, which was ultimately my goal.
So Chris, real quick before I move on to Chad. So did you have that aha moment, or this person that you met that was in law enforcement that inspired you, that said, hey, Chris, maybe you should think about stepping into law enforcement?
No, I really don't think so. I think it was more of an internal decision of what do I want to do with my life. And, I won't lie, at 18 years old and knowing you can drive a car fast and lights and sirens and that kind of stuff, that's kind of appealing. I mean, it is for most kids, right? And so I think it was just that draw of what I was the most comfortable with and what I knew. I didn't have no trades. I mean, my dad taught me how to take care of cars and things of that nature, but really the law enforcement was just something that, and I think it probably got a little deeper for me as a medic and going to the calls with the police officers, whether it's the city, county, state, conservation. I think it was just more and reinforced the uniform and the professionalism and the things that they brought to our community. And I thought, it's definitely something I want to be part of.
Right. Chad, for you, do you have that moment or that person that inspired you to step into law enforcement?
So I had positive experiences as a young person in this community with specifically deputy sheriffs. Just as a kid running around out in the countryside on an ATV, sometimes maybe a little too close to the road and I'd get the finger pointed at me. But, it was just friendly warning type stuff and more community policing oriented than writing tickets and so forth, which I was thankful for. Things were a little different back then, and the roads are much more dangerous now, as we've come to learn. But one person, aside from just the positive relationships that I had with the sheriff's deputies out in my community where I lived in the rural parts of the county, I remember a detective came over to our house when I was a little kid, and we had a break-in scenario, and that person took me to side and explained to me everything that he was doing, and particularly shoe prints, fingerprints, things like that. So it was just very interesting, and I was kind of on the hook at a young age that I think I want to be a deputy sheriff. I didn't think I wanted to be a state trooper and move away and be on a toll road or something like that. But so ultimately, that was what I just had in my mind. I'm going to at least attempt to do that. Coming out of high school, I had some downtime. Of course, you can't even apply until you're age 21. So I took a great job at a CNC machine shop and became a CNC machinist. At the same time, I pursued my criminal justice degree at IPFW, back in the day is what it was called anyway. Came out of that successfully, and I was a reserve officer for the Sheriff's Department for 5 years. After I did about a 100-hour internship, they asked me to be a reserve, so the rest is kind of history. I was then hired in 2003.
Interesting point. Both these gentlemen are native sons of Huntington County, born and raised here, decided to put their roots down here, raise their families. We're glad you did. Chad, what would something that goes on in the sheriff's office in the day-to-day operations that people might not be aware of what you guys do in a day-to-day operation? Give me an example of something that the public might not be aware of.
I'm not sure if I can come up with just one example. I mean, it's a plethora. I mean, every court paper that comes through the clerk's office and gets sent our way, whether it's a subpoena, small claims, notice to appear, every arrest warrant that comes from the courts comes into our office. We're handling about 1,100 arrest warrants per year, 2,400 civil papers per year. The inmate care, whether they need shoes, bedding, whether we have a food vendor issue, medication issue. We are tasked with taking care of the courts and all of the paperwork and warrants that comes with it, as I've touched on. One of our primary tasks is taking care of right now we're sitting on about 135 inmates. We're tasked with taking care of those people and making sure they're treated properly. Other things that of course, people know that we make traffic stops, and we go out there and we'll help a person in need. If somebody's having a bad day, or if it's simply a flat tire, we're going to change the tire. Community, taking care of the community as a whole is so much deeper for us because we have the jail and the courts attached to us, much different than any other type of law enforcement.
I'm going to move to some of the programs that Chris, you and Chad have implemented. Like I said before, you guys have kind of raised the bar on what law enforcement needs to do in the community, what they need to do for the inmates. Chris, could you kind of elaborate on the JCAP program and how this program has had a huge impact on the people that are incarcerated for any period of time, and when they step out back into the real world again, how this program's really had a huge impact?
So I will tell you that several years ago, when we were looking at having to build a new jail, there was a lot of talk, and the word we used to use a lot that you don't hear much anymore is recidivism. And that was a popular topic among everybody in the criminal justice system. And so one of the things that we were tasked with by either the commissioners or the council is, how do we reduce the recidivism? How do we reduce the number of inmates that show up once but then keep coming back? Because there's a reason why they keep coming back. Back when I started, there really wasn't not a lot of options. The judges could either let somebody go or they held them accountable and put them in jail. Well, what would happen when they'd be in jail? Obviously, they would lose their house because they would lose their job. They couldn't make payments. They wouldn't be able to pay child support for their kids. Lose their cars and everything that goes along with you losing your job and losing your money. So one of the things we really wanted to do is tackle what kind of programs we best place for our jail to make sure that we did the best for the inmates while they were in there. So hopefully we can change the culture so we don't see them coming back, their kids coming back, and so on and so forth. one of the things that we ended up doing is hiring an inmate coordinator. And I think we're one of the only ones in the area that has done this. And we hired a person by the name of Jamie Fox. Those that are familiar with Jamie, she's been in and out of jail in the prison system. And she is a recovering addict of drugs. But she really proved herself when she got out of jail and prison. She started a headlong path into helping inmates in any way she can. Mm-hmm. And so she proved enough that we wanted her to come into our jail and start doing this, kind of on a part-time basis. And she came in, and we were hearing nothing but positive results of some of the inmates saying, I've never had anybody help me like this.
Right. I think a really important point was what really piqued my interest in the program, and then the commissioners helped fund some of it to get it initially started, was, and I think, Chad, you said this to me one time, these people are walking out of jail with just a shirt on their back. No access to medical care, no access to jobs, no help out there for them. And that's why, like Chris was talking about recidivism, that's why that happens, because there's no nothing for them out there to step into.
Right,
and
no next step.
No next step. And I think that's why what Jamie's done and you guys have done is really important, that these people do have a chance or an opportunity to right the ship.
A lot of people don't have the support base.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why sometimes they end up in jail and they keep coming back to jail. The whole goal in part of the JCAP program and things that we put in there and Jamie's doing is to build our own little community within that facility. So even when they get out, if they don't have that support system when they get out of jail, is the support system they built while they were in jail, and kind of to go to each other and try to help each other out so they don't end up back in jail.
Going to move on to another program that you guys are really proud of. Very unique. I know a lot of different counties, different departments in surrounding counties have kind of copied what you do. Chad, why don't you start out by talking about Camp Hero a little bit, and I'll let Chris kind of piggyback on what you have to say about it.
Sure. So Camp Hero is a public safety camp for our area children ages 8 to 13. So when we're preparing for camp, we'll go around to all of the elementary schools and deliver a short presentation and show them some videos and pictures so they know what it is that they're about to experience. But so we do the camp for this next camp. It's going to be the week of July 13th of 2026. And one of the first things we do is, actually, let me back up. The camp, we opened this up to about 240 kids is where we've been hitting on our numbers the last few times that we've had camp. That is an incredible feat because it takes at least 30 other first responders. It's not just the sheriff or the chief deputy or anything like that. My job at this point is to put the whole thing together and make it as good as I possibly can. But the real heroes of Camp Hero are the 30 plus first responders from all across our community that show up to help with these groups of kids. So we take those 240 kids, we break them into 10 different squads, feed them breakfast, lunch, and every once in a while, in the past, we have had kind of a dinner party before for pizza or whatever, but we keep the admission fee quite low. We believe there has to be some attachment of a fee just so that spot isn't taken and then the person doesn't show up. So a little bit of ownership there, but we keep it very low, and we're able to do that because of community support. Different organizations and people from our community bring us money to donate to specifically for that program. So the first thing we do on day one is we line them up, get them in their groups, introduce them to their first responder squad leaders, and teach them how to march. That's step one. Everywhere we go all week long, we're marching, we're in step, we look good, and it's not chaos, if you will. But we bring in so many different first responder type events and activities for them, such as some examples, the impaired vision goggles. We have many sets of those, and we'll bring in golf carts and have the child operate the golf cart with one of our adult counselors and go through an obstacle course wearing these impaired vision goggles. I mean, step one, this is why you don't operate anything if you're under any medication, or if when you're older, or what have you, you're using alcohol or something like that. This is why these things are bad. We bring in canine demonstrations. Usually there's a bomb demonstration, a a Black Hawk from the National Guard. We generally have pretty good luck getting that in. It's only had to skip us once or twice, but we teach these kids. We take them one day over to the YMCA, and we use the swimming pool over there, and we bring in the Indiana conservation officers, and they take each kid down, whoever wants to participate, and do scuba diving in the pool. We have boater safety, and we kind of break that up with some other fun things in the middle of the day, such as an ice cream truck, a snow cone truck. I mean, we want to spoil them a little bit. We want them to have a good time, and we want them to build a positive relationship. And that is one sure way to do it at that age.
So Chris, I know this was kind of your baby, your brainchild. So where did you get the inspiration or the idea for Camp Hero, and how did it all start?
So I have to go back to, when I first got on the department. The Indiana State Police used to hold different types of camps. And one they used to hold was at Huntington University. And it was a Respect for Law camp. I got asked to be a counselor at that camp. And it was fun. I mean, all the things that Chad just described are the things that they were doing. And it eventually got moved to Fort Wayne. And I really felt like there was a disconnect between Huntington and these great programs that they were putting on. So with that in mind, when Sheriff Stoffel was elected sheriff, I kind of brought this idea, and I thought, I think we could do something like this for Huntington and just have Huntington kids be involved in it. And so one of my reasons was when he asked was, I said, a lot of times when these kids see us in their homes, it's usually under tragic circumstances, regardless of what emergency services you are in. They need to know more about who we are, what we are. We could really educate these kids, not just for future maybe positions in our community, but not to be fearful of us when we show up at houses. And so the idea really just started right there. And I remember him asking me, well, how many kids do you really think you're going to get? And I remember thinking, well, if we get 20 to 30 kids to show up each year, I think that means we might be successful. And here we are, we're hitting 240, 250 kids. We're having to shut it down early just because there's been an overwhelming outpour from just not only the kids, but the teachers and the community. And the funny enough is you start looking around all the counties surrounding us, everybody's doing one now. So it comes full circle. That's the part I'm probably going to miss the most is that camp and what it does for the kids. We walk into Walmart out of uniform anymore, and you can't. Any of our kids or guys that have been a part of Camp Hero, they call us out, say, "Hey, weren't you at Camp Hero? Weren't you this guy? Weren't you that?" So they remember us, and that's what it's all about: is building rapport with our kids in our community.
So, Chris and Chad, moving forward, how can people learn about Camp Hero and when the program starts?
Well, I'll tell you, fortunately for me, is I've turned this all over to the Chief Deputy, Chad. So he's been running this for the last couple of years, and he's done an exceptional job. And I look forward to this continuing to grow. As far as the support, what I would tell you is we have a Camp Hero Facebook page, and we put everything that's on there. During the camp, we put pictures, things of that nature, when signups are going to be. So really it comes down to the support is send your kids. Let us be part of their lives. I don't know, Chad, do you have something you'd like to add on top of that?
Yeah, so approximately around March or April, if not even sooner, I'll throw out on social media the dates, and looking forward to seeing the kids when I stop with my friends at the schools and pay the visits. And I drop off bracelets and a little informational flyer about the camp. So when I do meet with the kids, and it's like, hey, go home and sign up tonight. Don't wait 2 weeks from now because it'll be full. But we try to get it out there mostly on social media and just get the word out.
So, gentlemen, I'll let you guys decide who wants to answer this question. So, in today's society, what is your biggest challenge, would you say, today and probably moving forward in the future that you see coming? What's going to be your biggest challenge?
I guess I'll go ahead and start off. I would say right now our biggest challenge is social media. There's so much misinformation that's put on social media. When somebody sees a cop car or an ambulance at somebody's house next door, they don't try to find out what's going on. They just assume what's going on. And before you know it, you perpetuate a misinformation sharing along social media. And before you know it, was a stubbed toe or a bloody nose is now turned into a homicide. So I would tell people, we really tried to open the door on our social media stuff. We have an app now. We are trying to really utilize that more to get them information out to the public. We also have a Facebook page. We tried to put everything out. Emergency management, they do a fantastic job. Anything related to public safety, the city police, the fire departments, we all are specific in the jobs that we do. So let us get the information out to you before we judge what's going on in the community. We have another thing that we're really looking forward to do to keep the information to the public more timely. That there's little hurdles we're trying to work through on that, but I look forward to sharing that here in the future, hopefully before I retire.
Crossing over to collaboration with other local agencies, I know firsthand that County Sheriff's Department works hand in hand with Huntington City. And just briefly, Chad, just talk about when you respond to certain types of calls or events, how you guys work together. Just give us a real short version, a brief version of.
We train together, we work together. It's different clothing. The benefits are a little bit different from one place to the other, but we are after the same goal and we have each other's back. That's as nutshell version as I could really possibly make it. Those different agencies around our community, again, help with Camp Hero. We train together, whether we're shooting together or doing physical tactics. Active shooter training, we practice that annually, if not more than once per year. I mean, we're just all in this together. You don't know if the alarm bells go off, who's showing up. We know people are showing up, but it could be from 3 different agencies. And that is why it's so great to have the collaboration that we have. And, we all have each other's cell phones and text messages, and anything significant that's going on, we're going to work together for this. They have, the HPD specifically has school resource officers. Sheriff's Office has school resource officers. Those people are in constant communication. So there's really no boundary there. There's no barriers, which back when I was a young officer coming in, there were absolutely barriers. There was, this is my sandbox and this is my sandbox over here. We don't have that anymore. We work very well together. Our detectives, actually, we have 2 detectives with the Sheriff's Office. They work with the Huntington police officer detectives, in addition to a state trooper as well. So, I mean, it's a great team effort that we've got going on here.
Any thoughts on how people can get involved or stay informed on what's going on with the Sheriff's Department? What would be the best way as far as involvement, or just to get that information from the Sheriff's Department, what you guys are doing on a day-to-day basis?
On a daily basis, we're always trying to push information out on Facebook, on the Sheriff's Facebook page, whether there's a situation going on or whether it's good news or help wanted in the jail or, whatever. We're always trying to push information on Facebook through social media. And as the sheriff mentioned earlier, the app, we're trying to get more focus on the app. You can do inmate lookup on the app. That's in real time. And it usually, when there's not a glitch in the system, you can have that person's photograph as well. Every once in a while, the photos don't come through, but we get that worked on and fixed. So the calls for service, we have a school page on the app now for information there. Really, and we're in the social media world now, and there's no turning back. So we're really trying to focus heavily on that.
Well, thank both you gentlemen for joining us today and telling us about what you do, and looking forward to working with you in the future on other projects you got going.
Thank you.
Thank you.